The California Reparations Task Force released its groundbreaking report today, detailing the ongoing harms Black Americans have suffered as a result of slavery and its lingering effects to this day. ABC 10's Becca Habegger is walking us through the 500-page report and why task force members say it's an important step forward.
When you read what has been done in California against African Americans, it's unbelievably eye-opening.
Democratic Assemblymember Reginald Byron Jones Sawyer Sr. is one of 9 members of the California Reparations Task Force. Established in 2020 when state lawmakers passed AB 3121, the task force is the first statewide effort in the nation to examine the long-lasting impacts of slavery and how to make amends.
We really do need to look at some of the laws that were in place that restricted African Americans to live certain places, that restricted who you could marry. You could not marry out of your race here in California. And so the vestiges of slavery that may have started in the South and the East Coast still permeated in California society.
For a year now, the task force has met almost monthly, discussing different topics each time, like gentrification and homelessness, racism in banking, discrimination in the tech sector, and at the start of it all, slavery, with testimony from invited speakers, including doctors, professors, civil rights leaders, and activists, as well as comments from the public. The result is this newly released 500-page report.
This is really about harms to descendants of slaves, so that we can then go back and say, what do we need to reverse those harms?
Harms, for example, like despite California entering the Union in 1850 as a free state, its early state government supported slavery. Some scholars estimate that up to 1,500 enslaved African Americans lived in California in 1852. California did not allow Black men to vote until 1879. The state also passed many of the voter suppression laws that were used in the South. California prohibited individuals convicted of felonies from voting, added a poll tax, and put in place a literacy test. The report also has some preliminary recommendations for reparations, although a final report due a year from now will detail the steps they'd like state lawmakers to take.
Just giving a community money is not the solution. You have to give them other things to make sure they make their community whole. This is better education, access to capital, being able to close the earnings gap.
Task force members call this the most comprehensive report of its kind since 1968, when President Lyndon B. Johnson commissioned a study on the root causes of urban riots and civil unrest happening at the time. The so-called Kerner Commission report famously stated, "This is our basic conclusion. Our nation is moving toward 2 societies, one black, one white, separate and unequal." That was 54 years ago, and the words remain just as relevant today, say members of the California Reparations Task Force.
There have been things that have gone on in America that have stifled, impeded, or stopped African Americans from really realizing our full potential.
The task force hopes this new report will spark conversations on the state level, be a model for other states, and even inspire federal lawmakers.
It's not all about money. It's about generational change for all African Americans.
Now, the task force voted in March to limit restitution to descendants of enslaved Black people. As for next steps, the report is going to state lawmakers for their review. Now, the final report is due next year. You can read today's report or a shorter summary with key findings. We have links to both at abc10.com.